the news. I'm skipping the computer this time and going straight to the phone. Hopefully you'll get a notification that this is happening. There's a lot happening, and I'm going to try my very dairy best to make a short video, because I've really gotten good at making long videos. Uno momento, por favor. It always helps if I turn that off, doesn't it? Okay. Hello and welcome to the news that didn't make the news. I feel like the longer I'm here, the more disclaimers I make. So here goes your disclaimer. This is for entertainment purposes only. I am not a scientist. I am not a geophysicist. I am not a space weather person. I am not a quantum physicist. I am not a scientist. Let's see what else. Where was I going with that? I missed something there, okay? So I'm none of those things. What I am is an intuitive, empathic, psychic person whose gifts, just like you, have been turned on and are getting more amplified. So I want to be here for a brief moment tonight just to give you a little information about what's currently happening in our reality. So hello and welcome to the news that didn't make the news, or the news that partially made the news. I keep telling myself I'm going to have to switch it to that. I want to talk in brevity about a couple of different subjects of things that have come to my attention in one way or another. And the first thing that I want to talk about is us as individuals. Where do we as individuals get our sense of peace? And where do we as individuals get our sense of security? What makes us feel peaceful? And what makes us feel secure? Hello. Hi, Gojo, I believe that's your name. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome in, welcome back. For those who are rejoining me. I want to go straight kind of into this so that I don't make another crazy long video like I have been doing. Hello, Jew. How are you? Welcome in and welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to cover up these comments so that I don't get distracted and tell you why I'm here. There's a pattern that I'm noticing, and so I'm asking you where you yourself as an individual get your sense of peace and where you get your sense of security. These are things that we can only give ourselves or find within ourselves internally. So I can't answer the question for anyone outside of myself where their peace comes from and where their security comes from. But I would have to say, by looking at external reality at this very moment, that not very many people feel secure and not many people feel safe. And though I can't answer that question for you, what brings you safety and what brings you security? I can tell you that from my observation of what's going on the planet right now, the majority of the planet gets their peace, or they believe they get their peace, from things in external reality. So their peace and their freedom and their sense of security comes from outer reality. But if our peace and our security and our stability come from our outer reality, we wouldn't have any peace. We wouldn't have any security or any freedom right now in the moment. What I'm observing in humanity's state at the moment is that the majority of people on this planet think or feel that their security and their state of peace or their peacefulness come from external reality. And I'm here to tell you that your peace only comes from how you take care of yourself, how you view things, what are your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings about what's going on. Now, we can disagree with people on politics or religion or education or science or quantum physics or quantum mechanics or anything we want to, but we can do it in a peaceful way or we can do it in a not so peaceful way. And what I'm seeing, how I'm seeing people react externally, is in a way that doesn't feel peaceful and a way that doesn't feel secure. And I'll give you a couple examples of what I mean. Now, do I feel secure? Do I feel safe? Yes, I do. 99.9% safe and secure over here. But what I'm seeing is a long list of things. And it starts with I can't be safe if I'm not praised for who I am and my individuality. Okay, so people are saying if I can't relate to this, if I can't confine myself to this box, if I can't be viewed or talked to or addressed that is cohesive to the way I identify, it's a problem. I can't feel safe if I'm not praised for who I am or how I'm different. I can't feel safe if my every whim is not catered to. I can't feel safe. And this is the big one that most people are experiencing right now. I can't feel safe if what I have been taught is lie. Most of what people are reacting to or overreacting to is the fact that they've been lied to for hundreds of years, thousands of years, generational lying coming from the very top of every subject, of every genre of study, from medicine to government and all of it. But people really feel right now, how can I be safe in a world where everything I've been taught is a lie? Now, most people are reacting or overreacting to being lied to for eons. And some people feel not peaceful, and some people feel not secure just because they feel unsafe or they feel insecure or they feel not at peace with themselves and with the world. It's because even if they want to deny the fact that they know the things that are coming out now are giving them a truth or starting to give them a truth or starting to give them a disclosure that they most likely don't know anything about if they haven't gone down the multitude of rabbit holes that we can study on the internet. And also in meditation, we can access any kind of thing we want from the sovereign intelligence system as well. But most people, a lot of people, the majority of the planet is not going within for peace and security. And so it feels not secure or not peaceful to have someone maybe not praise them, maybe not accept their view. And there are things here we could go on. There are hundreds of examples of people not feeling safe and not feeling secure. But the biggest attribute to that right now is if you look at the amount of information that's coming out, whether it's, alien disclosure, governmental fraud, no matter what it is, we have thought, or a lot of people have thought for the longest of times, that disclosure was going to be about aliens. And I've been talking about this for the last couple weeks, but disclosure is disclosing anything. It's not just about aliens. It's not about other races living on this planet. It's not about their technology or the pacts they made with our government. It's the basic fact that people don't feel safe or secure on an unconscious level because they have a feeling, even if they don't want to believe it, even if they don't want to listen to you, or even if they don't want to study it, they do have this basic feeling that something is wrong and they've been lied to. So that makes them not react very well when people come to them and try to help them or give them assistance or point them to where they could study, it's not being received very well because of that underlying feeling that they've been lied to, they've been cheated, they've been sabotaged, right, in so many ways. But how could we ever change the lying, the cheating, the saboteur, any of it, if we're not aware of what's going on? But there are a lot of people on this planet that are not aware of what's going on, and they don't care to be aware of what is going on. So the way that media has been designed is to make you angry or make you sad or make you emotional. Everything that the media does, and a lot of social media as well, of course, we can't leave that out, is designed to make you sad, it's designed to make you angry, and it's designed to keep you closed off. Now, if you think about having an argument with your spouse or a member of your family, things can get heated in an argument. And when you get angry, you somewhat shut down, right? You don't want to hear anything. You don't want to see anything. And if it's your family or your spouse, if you know better, you'll take a couple deep breaths, right? And walk away and come back to that later when everyone's calmed down. They have an acute awareness that while keeping you in a state of anger or passivity or sadness, or by yanking your chain emotionally all over the place in any spectrum, because they know that you cannot be rational when you're angry. And so that's why they are reporting, for the most part, what they are reporting. And I have seen some news that's starting to come out in certain channels where there's some truth to it. Now, I want to talk about something that's been happening for many years, but in the last 6 months, it seems to have really, really escalated. And that is, if you are here, if you have a basic understanding that we are evolving, that our consciousness is changing, that we are leveling up, that we are shifting, that we are advanced technology and we're becoming superhuman. In other words, things that the way we used to be in our natural organic state, those things are getting turned back on at the moment. So, does you being on an expanded consciousness journey, does your up leveling mean that you yourself don't experience any drama? Because I'm seeing a lot of that, right? And someone said to me pretty recently that, if you are on the path of ascension and you're on the path of expanded awareness, that you will not have any discord in your family. You won't have any discord in your neighborhood. You won't have any discord in your apartment building. You just won't have any discord because you're constantly in a state of peace and sovereignty and freedom. And multidimensionality means that we exist in a 3D body, physical body, on a 3D physical planet, and we are accessing now other dimensions of consciousness. It does not mean that you remove yourself from your family dynamics, from your neighborhood, from your apartment building, or anything else. So just because your consciousness is expanding, does that mean you should be love and light all the time? Does that mean that should be your focus, is love and light all the time? Well, I mentioned this before, but it's very much worth mentioning again, that they did a study with hundreds of people. They put them in a room and they gave them some things to discuss, and they told them only to be concentrated on love and light. So these people just went around with everybody in this room being friendly, being loving, being filled with light, being filled with positivity, and then they measured the auric field of everybody in that room. Now, of course, being nice and being positive and being loving and empathetic and understanding does have a high vibration. But what I want you to know is the vibration of people in the second experience experiment was 10 times higher. And the second experiment was to take those people and put them in a room and say, okay, so now your goal is to walk around, just talk to people, and be the most authentic self that you can be, right? So instead of just being being loving and only speaking love and light and being your most charming positive self, now they ask these people, okay, hats off, mask off. Now just walk around in this room and totally be authentically who you are, right? And what they found was the vibration of authenticity was 10 times stronger than the vibration of just being nice and positive and loving and understanding. So does expanding your consciousness then mean that you don't have conflict in your family, in your relationships, in your apartment building? It doesn't, because the only part of the scenario that you can control in your relationships, with your spouse, your children, your family, the people in your apartment building, the people in your neighborhood, the only option you have is how you react to what they do and what they say, to you directly. Now, I've been a person that no matter what the people in my building are doing, I don't really care unless, they're disturbing the peace, or threatening people, right? So I've lived in many apartments because I've lived in the inner city, in really, some not so awesome neighborhoods for many, many years. And I've lived in a lot of apartment buildings, with people that sell drugs, right? And did I turn them in for selling drugs? Of course I didn't. Did I treat them any different for selling drugs? Of course I didn't. I know when to stay in my lane. And if you live in certain parts of the city, you have to know when you should stay in your lane, right? And I remember I lived in this apartment building when I first moved, into Northside, where I live now. And it was not a culturally diverse, neighborhood. It was not a culturally diverse apartment building. And, there was one neighbor in, I think, 200 apartments that was super friendly to me. And I used to talk to, I don't know if it was his wife or his girlfriend on occasion. But one night, I had borrowed my brother's car because I didn't have a car at the time. And I dropped the keys in the car. They fell out of my pocket and it had automatic locks. So I was locked out. So I knocked on the neighbor's door and I asked them if he could like pick his way and break into my car so I could get the keys. Um, because what I wanted to do when I first knocked on his door was I wanted to borrow his phone so I could call the police to have them come unlock my car. But as it turns out, they didn't do that anymore in the county I lived in. So I asked the neighbor, I knew he was a drug dealer. And I said, can you help me break into my car? And he looks at me and he says, I never was very good at that, but he did try, for 40 minutes until he was finally able, to get me into my car, right? So you can, in every situation, you can react in multiple ways to your spouse, to your family, to your significant other, to your neighbors, to the people in your building, to the people on the street. You always have a choice to how you react. But just because you're on a path, right, of taking care of yourself and expanding your consciousness and being the highest, healthiest version of you, does not mean that you'll never have an argument with your spouse. And it does not mean that you'll never have a problem with your neighbor. And it doesn't mean that someone won't make a judgment or yell something rude to you walking down the street. Now, I'm not sure exactly where we get this idea from. So just because we're on it now, when you say this or when someone says this to you, right? Oh, well, have such an expanded consciousness. You talk about it all the time. Why would you have a problem with your neighbor? Or why would you have an argument with your spouse, or somebody in your family, right? But again, there's got to be some sort of line here. We do want to be who we authentically are. And the only way that we can control all of those situations, and the only part of that we can control, is how we react to whatever that spouse or partner or neighbor or person down the street is doing. Just because we're on a journey, a spiritual journey of expanded consciousness, of becoming superhuman, does not mean that we don't have that we don't ruffle any feathers in physical reality. It doesn't mean that everybody gets along, rainbows and unicorns, utopian society. It doesn't mean that. So I don't know where we got that idea, right? Now, arguments happen, disagreements happen. Yes, if you are in constant disagreement and constant argument with your spouse or your partner, it's perhaps time to evaluate that situation, right? And probably at that point, you don't even need to evaluate. You just need to do something about what you already know. So it's really, really important that we are around people where our nervous system can take a break when we have massive chaos going on. So if you're in a situation, people, places, and things that is not good for you or detrimental to your physical or mental health or spiritual journey, that's something you need to get out of. What I'm saying is there's a whole lot of this crap where, oh, you're on a spiritual journey. I can't even believe that you had a disagreement, with your mother or with your brother or with your neighbor, right? So it has nothing to do with it because, right? So unless you're going to say, you know what, I'm expanding, I'm becoming multidimensional, I'm just going to put a bubble around my house. I'm going to put a bubble around myself. I do this in storms, as you know. Unless you're going to completely bubble yourself off and cut yourself off, there's no way that you're ever going to not have a disagreement or an issue with someone, even if you're accessing the 144th dimension. It doesn't matter. So that's the silliest idea I've ever heard. So I wanted to briefly go into that. When we get to those situations with partners or spouses or neighbors or whatever, again, the only thing we can do is control or moderate how we respond and how we react to those people. We cannot completely, unless I would said you wanted to bubble your house off and yourself off, then you're not going to talk to anybody, you're not going to have any relationships or whatever. We're human beings, right? And part of the evolutionary process is that we learn how to cooperate better. We learn how to cohabitate better, right? And in a non-codependent way. So I thought that was important to talk about. Now, I want to talk about just two other things very briefly, and I'm going to be very proud of myself if I can get off of here in like 30 or 40 minutes. That would be awesome. Our DNA activations are being triggered enormously by what is going on with our sun cycle. I'm not going to elaborate because I have elaborated so much on this channel that it's probably half of what this channel is about. So most of you are aware of it. DNA activations are hitting an all-time high, okay? So I want to go into a story, and here we go, that I'm not a scientist or quantum physicist or astrologist or anything else. You know that already, but I always say that, and I bring you the messages the way the messages come to me. And so the way the messages come to me might not be the correct terminology for geophysicists. They might not be the correct biological terms for what's happening in the body. You'll have to bear with me. And when I get these messages or these visions, they are dumbed down in a way that Tina Hammond can understand, and the way that it's easiest for me to verbalize something and have you understand it as well. So the solar cycle is hitting our DNA activations to an all-time high. The majority of what I'm telling you, there is nothing to back it up. Someone asked on a couple of videos back, can I have a link to that? It's like, I'm not sure how to link you to my brain and my consciousness and my heart. So I've tried to do a better job in the last couple of weeks of saying this is me when I give you, facts or what's going on in the world. I will tell you, I got this from this source. No, I'm not haven't figured out how to become intelligent enough to link things here. But anyway, there's nothing here that comes from external anyway, so shouldn't be a big deal. Originally, the original human had 24 genomes, okay, or 12 pairs, if you will. And I first started talking about genome information and the 12 pairs back in the video that was titled Drones Over Jersey Tribal Justice for 12. And the majority of that is symbolic, but that will probably be a good place to start if you're here now and haven't seen that video from around December 15th or 16th. The original human had 24 genomes, and we were tinkered with, as many of you know. Now, you know our scientists have been cloning animals and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and they're only skimming the brief top of what they're actually doing, right? So they're doing hundreds of thousands of things that they are not reporting, okay? And so the original human, as it was designed, had 24 genomes, and that system was tinkered with, okay? So how they tinkered with that was they took two of the genomes, they took the 23rd genome and they spliced it, and or the 24th, I'm not sure which, the last genome in the cycle, they spliced it with a genome lower down the ladder. I don't know any other way to describe what I'm seeing. So they spliced two of these genomes and put them together so that we would only have 23 genomes instead of 24 genomes, right? Now, there are a lot of people that talk about all the different groups that have messed with our biology and our physical appearance and the color of our skin, and all kinds of other things. And those are not topics that are my thing or my expertise by a long shot. This is what I got. They have taken the genome and cauterized one part of it, and then again with my terminology, but it just looked like they sliced the genome, the last one in the sequence, the 24th, and they sliced that, and looks like they melted or welded that together so we'd only have 23. So think about this like a hose. Like if you need more length on a hose to reach to water to your garden or wash your car, you can take a second hose and screw that into the first hose, so you'll get a longer hose, right? So you can reach whatever is your target to reach. A lot of those hoses, if you're buying a second hose, will have a shutoff valve between the first hose and the second hose. So you can not only turn it off at the spigot, you can also shut it down somewhere in the middle of that hose, right? It's a double safety thing, okay? So the 24th genome was spliced, and then I want to say like cauterized or welded, that's what it looks like, to another genome. Okay, so nothing's been removed. That's just how it is. It's been spliced together, or like I said, it looks like being welded together. So this is exactly what I have seen has been done to us. The connection of these genomes, right, leaving the 24th genome, what they basically turned off was the superpowers, okay? That's what they turned off by splicing the 24th genome with another genome, like looks like somewhere in the middle of the set, like maybe it was 6 or 7, maybe 8, and they just snipped one, cauterized it, and fused it, I guess is a better word, with another genome. So now we have 23 and not 24. No matter what has been done to our genomes, we are moving past that, and we're moving past what has been done to our genomes and our DNA. We're moving past it, and we're moving past it emotionally. We're moving past it energetically. But most importantly, for you to understand what I'm saying is we're moving past that physically. So the sun has started to heal or mend that welding, that placement. Okay. So The first thing is I see that the genome or the G part of the genome sequence that has been spliced has been fused together. The solar cycle is in an energetic way, taking those back to the way they used to be. Okay, so you have two genomes that are fused together, but what's going on with the sun is causing those two genomes to now separate. Those two genomes that have been fused together are separating themselves. So the one thing I want you to know about that is you may be feeling all kinds of weird sensations, and you may be feeling power surges of electricity in your body. You may feel thirstier than you normally do. You may feel hungrier than you normally do, and eating what you normally would eat maybe doesn't feel like it's cutting it. So even though this is an energetic process, it's an energetic process that is physically altering us or re-altering us or returning us back to the 24th genome. Now, this takes a lot of fuel, and even though you can't see this, you can't see this happening, and most likely you can't feel it, though I would encourage you, if you're interested in this, to just close your eyes in the darkest of rooms possible and look inside your body. You have access to anything you want. You are very powerful, very brilliant system. There is no doubt about it. No matter what has been done to us, we're moving past it. We're moving past it energetically, we're moving past it emotionally, and we're moving past it physically. These two genomes that have been spliced together are separating themselves. And even though you can't see it, and probably a lot of you can't feel it, it's requiring a lot of extra energy in the body. And there's two things that I saw that were going to be really, really helpful. I'm not telling you to massively change your diet or anything, but here's the two important things. One, you want to consume a lot of things that took a long time to produce in the sun. Okay, oranges, grapefruits, lemons, avocados, pineapples, greenery and stuff like that, of course, helps. Root vegetables are very good for you in the fall and winter. However, during this process, and I'm not saying don't eat them, I'm saying really load up on specifically citrus and things that took a long time. Like avocados take 6 months in the sun. Lemons take 6 to 9 months to produce. Pineapple takes 24 months to produce a pineapple. So that's one of the best things you can do. So in the process of the unwelding and unwielding and the re-separation and returning back to having 24 genomes, even if you can't see it and you can't feel it, the body's using up a ton more energy than we are used to right now. I've heard many people in the last couple of days say, why am I all of a sudden just starving? Like I cannot get enough food. I've been that same way, but I've noticed eating more food doesn't do it unless it's specifically those two things. So citrus is the one thing, but here's the absolute main thing. Our whole body system is built on protein. And I don't care if you're a vegan, you're a vegetarian, it doesn't matter what food category you fall in, because there are hundreds of things on this planet we can eat that are packed in protein. Now, if you're a carnivore or you have meat in your diet, you can eat high protein that way, but I still suggest things that have more chlorophyll in them. Okay. So if you're a vegan or a vegetarian, you can do chia seeds. Actually, one of the best thing to do is organic hemp hearts, because they have like 15 grams of protein and it completely comes from plants. If you are a vegan or a vegetarian, and again, I'm not trying to disrupt your way of eating or your way of thinking or anything, but the process that's happening requires a lot more protein. So if you're a vegan, you can do hemp hearts. And I am not a vegan, but I do a lot of hemp hearts every single day. I just put them in a shake because of the amount of protein I can get, because I just noticed that I kind of have been in the same eating pattern for almost 3 years, but it wasn't enough protein And I only eat red meat maybe like once a month. Um, and so I needed a way to get more protein, and eggs are a really great thing. I know some people don't believe they are, but they are very full of vitamins. So in this process of returning to the 24th genome, you're going to experience physical symptoms, emotional symptoms, spiritual symptoms, all of it. And a lot of it can be assisted by eating things that have had a lot of sun, specifically citrus or avocados, and making sure that you're getting enough protein. And you should be getting about, depends on your body, but right now you need at least 30 grams of protein per meal. Okay, so I'll take like 3 tablespoons of hemp seeds. That's 3 tablespoons of hemp seeds, I think is like 15 grams of protein. I'll put that in a shake, or I'll sprinkle it on my salad or something. They don't, you could eat them plain too. They don't have a whole lot of taste. That's why I add them to stuff, because you can't really taste them that much. But yeah, so protein and citrus are really, really super important for what's going on right now. Now I want to talk very briefly. How long have I been in here? 36 minutes. Okay, so their purpose in turning the genome off, and what happens when that genome comes back online. Well, you become the superhuman that I've been talking about for the last 3 years. Now, I didn't know it was specifically tied to the genome, and that it was being, I almost said unhinged. It feels like it, unleashed by the solar cycle that we are in, and also the evolutionary cycle that we're in. So the 24th genome being turned on or being unharmed, unspliced, unwelded, going back to its original organic thing means your body is disease resistant. It means that your junk DNA, which is interesting because when I looked up junk DNA today, it said junk DNA, but it referred to junk DNA as silenced DNA. Now, I've looked up stuff about DNA before, so I was really surprised. I've never seen the word silenced DNA. Science always refers to it as junk DNA. Well, now they're referring to it as silenced DNA. So now they're finally telling the truth. That's why I'm saying disclosure is coming from every corner and every angle and every genre of your life in every single way. Okay. When we go back to this 24th genome, then separating, going back to its original organic place and being healed, you're talking about superhuman, talking about disease resistant. You're talking about all of the silenced DNA going back to vibrating. So what was the point of this? They took something in the middle, and when they spliced it or welded this together with the 24th genome so that we would only have 23, it silenced, quote, a lot of things in your body. It silenced a lot of your gifts. It silenced your superhuman powers. Now, they've been coming online despite the fact that they did this to us, but we're talking about being resistant to disease. We're talking about becoming superhuman. Most importantly, we're talking about the parts of our DNA that they have silenced. And when I say silenced, they're not moving or vibrating, because whatever genome they attached it to is the vibration that genome is getting. So if it was the 6th genome that they melded it together or spliced it together with, that 6th strand or that sixth frequency of that genome would still be moving, but the 24th that's been turned back into the 23rd would not be. When they say silence, they literally mean that genome is no longer receiving a vibration. That genome has been spliced to cut off its sensations. Okay, so the 24th genome is no longer receiving the vibration, and that's the vibration from your heart, the vibration from the sun, everything on the planet, right? So the silenced DNA is reversing itself, and that 24th genome is starting to make noise. It's starting to vibrate. What they had turned off was a very beneficial frequency to the 24th genome. And that's exactly why they did it. Now, one last thing. I was in Florida a couple weeks ago helping John move, and I saw this really strange looking thing out of the corner of my eye, and I ran over to see what it was because the water is like 50. But of course, Tina was in there waiting because I can't stay out of water. There's a really weird fish on the shore, and I got closer, and there's a couple people standing around, and we picked it up with something, and you could tell it was literally on its last couple breaths. It was moving around its wings. It was the strangest looking fish I have ever seen. And when I picked it up, it had eyes. Its eyes were like this color. It was the most crazy deep water turquoise eyes. I've never seen anything like that on a fish. And then I realized it was a puffer fish. Now, what the hell is a puffer fish doing throwing itself up on shore? And again, this was a couple weeks ago. When was this? It would have been the last day of January. So something very strange energetically has been going on. Now, if you were here and you saw the last video where I was talking about protecting my house and my neighborhood and several other houses and neighborhoods, trying to calm down the wind, trying to calm down the ice and the snowstorm, I had gone when my usual antics didn't work, I went into the element of air. I went into the atmosphere and I had a conversation with it. And when I did, I saw this electricity that just looked like 10,000 bolts of lightning simultaneously. And I had a conversation with it. Now, I'm only telling you that to say that I had seen this fish washed up, and we ended up picking it up. And this guy was standing there saying, "Hey, don't pick it up. It's a puffer fish. It's poisonous," which me and the other lady knew it was, and we knew it was on its last leg, but we couldn't leave it on the shore to just die. So we did we did eventually get the puffer fish back in the water. But I kept thinking, what the hell? I've been to beaches everywhere, all over, and I've never ever seen a puffer fish on the shore. So last night I decided to lay down in meditation, and I actually put a blanket over my head to make it as dark as humanly possible. And I've decided to send my consciousness down into the water, into the ocean of the planet. And I didn't specifically say where I wanted to go. I was just descending. I was watching my body descend down into the water and my consciousness down to the bottom of the seafloor, so that I could understand what was happening. Now, we have volcanoes that are about to erupt. We have tectonic plates moving everywhere, and we have fish that live in the bottom of the ocean in complete and total darkness coming up and beaching themselves. In fact, so I had seen a short video yesterday, and someone had just said, I forget what it was. It looked like a snake or an electric eel, but it was completely white. And they had been beaching themselves, and people had found many of these things, right? And so this person was saying that in myth and legend, this certain fish, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of it, would come up to warn of earthquakes. And so I'm down there. I put myself down at the bottom of the ocean floor, and my eyes are closed. I'm in a dark room, and I have a blanket over my head just to make sure that I can fully see. And as I started to descend, if you've ever been like scuba diving or you've swam underwater for any great length of time like me, when the sun and clouds move, how you have different variations of light coming down into the water. And it normally only goes so far. If you're swimming deep, you're not going to see it. You're not going to experience it. As I descended down into this water, I started seeing like little light formations flickering all over. Then when I got to the bottom of the ocean floor, off to the left-hand side, now keep in mind, I know that I can't go to the bottom of the ocean floor and look at the core of the planet. So it is in a way showing me like symbolically what is happening, right? So I'm not seeing the core of Earth cracking through the bottom of the ocean. I don't want you to think that that's what I'm saying. The light gets stronger and stronger the further down I go. And when I get to the bottom of the ocean floor, I can just, what I see off to my left hand is only what I can describe as, it's so bright, it almost looks like the sun. And of course, you know, in meditation or when I'm looking to bilocate my energy or remote view something, it is often seen in a symbolic way so you can understand, not a literal way. What I saw and initially what I saw was the light getting stronger and stronger. And then when I got close enough to see the ocean floor, I could see that same static electricity everywhere that looked the same as it did when I tapped into that storm to have a conversation with the atmosphere, specifically air or with the element of wind and air, to see what was going on. So it started out as light. As I got further down, it looked like static electricity. So if any of you remember Spencer's gift store that sells all kinds of weird and crazy gag gifts, they used to have, like in the 80s, they had this like glass looking ball with like a little core in the center that sent out the electricity, and you could put your hand on it and watch all what looked like lightning come from that ball up to meet your hand at the glass, right? So first I saw light, and then when the ocean floor was in view, that static electricity was absolutely everywhere. There was static electricity and very heavily, as if you were to see thousands of bolts of lightning come from the ground and go into the air, ascend into the air simultaneously. And the third thing I saw was that the core was this almost the color of the sun, this bright orangish yellow. And it was really, really bright. It was really lit up and it was pulsing. And I could hear the pulses coming from the core of Earth. And I could also feel that light and all the electricity was being generated by the core of Earth. With, if we are having deep earthquakes, or we do have deep earthquakes, that would be because they're coming from the core. Now, in 2018, I had a very, very, probably at that point, the strangest vision I had ever seen. I was sitting at the table, staring out the window in the kitchen, which was my office too. And all of a sudden, I was standing above the ocean. Now, I don't know where I was, but I was standing above the ocean, I would say 15, 20 feet above the ocean, just kind of remote viewing it. This just happened. I wasn't consciously trying to remote view anything. I was just daydreaming, probably writing poetry or something and staring out the window. I was about 15 or 20 feet away from the ground, right? So kind of hovering over the ground like a bee or a bird would. And what I saw was that the earth was vibrating so hard that on the ocean shore itself, waves were starting at the shore and going out into the ocean. So the waves were going completely backwards. The waves were completely in reverse. And then I saw that this had something to do with the core of Earth. And I didn't make a video about this. I didn't talk to a living soul about this. And someone reached out to me and said, "Would you mind if I sent you something?" And I said, "No, go ahead." And what she sent me was some passages from the book of Enoch where they talk about an earthquake coming from the core of Earth and how that would send ocean waves from the shore back out into the water, which is the reverse way that we know they come. So I wanted to share these things with you. We can, of course, individually or as a group, work with certain energies. Now, I'm not saying we're going to overtake or overwhelm the sun or change the core of the earth, but there are certain safety things for people, for sentient life on this planet that we can do. This is something that I used to do in 2018, but when I started this group to do this, many strange and crazy things started happening to me and to the people around me. I have a much higher security clearance now. I have no idea why I'm saying that. And I have a much higher level of protection now as well. So if that is something that anybody is interested in, hello, Rennie. Hello, Scott. Hello, Lynn. I had my comments covered up and I didn't even know who was here. If anybody is interested in that, and like I said, if you watch the last video, I simply went in and said, you know, if this hi Lynn, if this was so again, I'm not trying to override a Mother Nature's process or the solar cycle, but just like when I know they had amped up the storm on purpose, I went in and I did some protection. I protected some people, places, and things. And then I went directly into the element of air to see what was going on and to see how, if there was a way that we could assist, that I could assist, and also a way that was right for all of sentient life, right? So I don't suggest, you know, doing anything crazy, but I have been doing this. I know that there are many people on this planet that are going in and, you know, having conversations with the elements and working to make storms less powerful and things like that. It's a tricky business, right? Because some things are natural, but a lot of these things are not natural. Yeah, I figured. And so, I mean, we know from other people's experiments and work that when people get together and they pray or they have a conversation with sentient life, that it does work. So if anybody is interested in doing that again, I don't know if I would do that on Facebook or how I would do that exactly. Thank you so much for being here. I know the things that I said sound really kind of rather silly, but because I'm not a scientist or a quantum physicist or an aeronautics person or a geophysicist or anything else, I see it the way it's easiest for me to understand and easiest to explain to you, easiest for me to put into words so that you can understand what is going on too. A lot of what is happening is natural, organic, and cyclical. A lot of what is happening is not. Yeah, so if anyone is interested in doing that, reach out to me and let me know. I'm proud of myself. I did this in under 53 minutes, and I thought it was going to be 20 minutes. I should know better. Tina Long-Winded, not an astrologist, Hammond, as I love to say, and for entertainment purposes, right? I don't know how much more accommodating I can be. So there you have it. Until next time, this was the news that didn't make the news. And thank you so much for being here.